The city was quiet that night. The streetlights were weak and most of them were already broken. Darkness covered the narrow road, and the cold wind moved through empty buildings like a whisper. On an old wooden bench near the corner of the street sat a young man. His jacket was worn out, his shoes were almost torn, but his eyes were calm. He carried a small plastic bag with him. Inside was his simple dinner. Just bread, a little rice, and one piece of chicken. He opened the bag slowly, as if this meal was the most valuable thing in the world. It was not much, but for him, it was enough. He placed the rice on a paper plate and tore the bread into pieces. As he prepared to eat, he noticed movement near the trash bins. 2 dogs came out first, thin, dirty, and shaking from hunger. Behind them, 3 cats appeared, their eyes glowing in the faint streetlight. They all stared at him, waiting, hoping. They did not bark. They did not make a sound. They only looked as if asking him for mercy. The man sighed. He knew this feeling. Hunger. Loneliness. The cold bite of nights when the world seemed to forget you. He looked at his food again. It was just enough for him, maybe not even enough. But then he broke the bread into smaller pieces and placed them on the ground. The dogs rushed forward first, but they did not fight. They simply wagged their tails and ate quickly. The cats followed, licking the tiny crumbs as if it was a feast. The man smiled. His stomach ached, but his heart felt lighter. He whispered almost to himself, "At least someone is full tonight." He picked a small bone from the chicken and gave it to the smallest dog, the one who was shaking the most. The dog's eyes shined with gratitude, though it could not speak. As he watched them eat, he thought about the people who passed this street every day. Nobody stopped, nobody cared. Everyone was too busy with their own lives. But tonight, here in the darkness, a simple man and a group of hungry animals shared the same meal, the same silence, and the same struggle. He leaned back on the bench, trying to relax. The cold wind blew again, stronger this time. It made the streetlight above him flicker. The dogs suddenly stopped eating. The cats raised their heads, their ears twitched, their bodies stiff. One by one, they stepped back as if they sensed something he could not see. The man frowned. "What is it?" he asked softly, though he knew they could not answer. The animals' eyes were fixed on the shadows behind him. They were not looking at the food anymore. They were looking at something else. Something in the dark. The man turned slowly. At first he saw nothing. Just the empty street, the broken buildings, the long stretch of silence. But then, he felt it. A strange coldness in the air, heavier than the wind. His skin prickled, his breath grew short. The dogs began to whimper. The smallest one hid behind his legs. The cats hissed softly, backing away. The man stood up, his plate falling from his hands. He searched the darkness with his tired eyes. There, near the far end of the street, something moved. A faint glow. Not white, not yellow, but a pale blue light. It was soft at first, like smoke drifting through the air. But then it grew brighter, taking shape. The man rubbed his eyes, thinking he was imagining it. He hadn't eaten much in days. Maybe he was weak. Maybe this was just his mind playing tricks. But when he opened his eyes again, the glow was still there, and it was closer. The animals cried out in fear. One of the cats jumped and ran away. The dogs barked once, then ran to the other side of the street, tails tucked between their legs. Only the smallest dog stayed by his side, shivering. The man's heart pounded in his chest. His first thought was to run. His second thought was to hide. But his legs felt heavy, frozen in place. He could not move. Then, through the glow, he saw something impossible. Figures. 3 of them. At first, they looked like shadows walking out of the light, but slowly, as they stepped closer, their shapes became clearer. They were not human. Not fully. Their bodies were thin, almost fragile. Their skin glowed faintly in the blue light, and their eyes were large, deep, and filled with sorrow. Their clothes were torn like they had traveled through fire and storm. Their movements were slow, weak, as if they had not eaten in a long time. The man's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to speak, but no words came out. The three figures stopped, a few feet away from him. For a moment, silence filled the street. The only sound was the beating of his own heart. Then one of them lifted her head. Her voice was broken, trembling, yet clear enough to reach him. "Food. Please." The man stared at them, stunned. His mind tried to understand. Who were they? Where did they come from? Why were they here, standing in front of him, begging? And then it hit him. Their eyes. They were the same as the stray's eyes. Hungry. Lost. Desperate. The man realized something in that moment. This night was not normal. This street was no longer empty. Something far greater had just begun. But he had no idea that by sharing his simple meal, he had opened the door to a story that would change everything. The man stood frozen on the cracked pavement. His half-empty plate lay forgotten on the ground, while the last crumbs of bread scattered in the cold wind. The stray animals had run off, leaving behind only silence and shadows. Only the smallest dog stayed, its tiny body pressed against his leg, trembling. In front of him, three glowing figures waited. Their light flickered like dying candles. They were girls, young but not children, and yet something about them felt different, alien, otherworldly. Their thin arms shook as though even standing was hard. Their hollow eyes followed every movement of his hands, his face, his food. The man could not breathe. His heart thundered inside his chest, louder than the wind. His first thought was madness. Maybe this was a dream. Maybe hunger and exhaustion were making him see things. He rubbed his eyes, blinked, and looked again. But they were still there. The glow around them grew softer now, almost blending with the dark street, as if they were trying to hide from the world. One of the girls stepped forward. Her skin was pale, with faint blue lines running like rivers under her surface. Her voice was broken, almost a whisper. "Food. Please." The man's stomach twisted. He had so little left, only a small piece of bread and rice. He had already given most of his dinner to the strays. Could he survive on what remained? He looked down at his hands, then at their faces. Their eyes were sharp but filled with something more painful than hunger, fear. He remembered the same eyes on the dogs and cats. Hunger never lies. It doesn't matter if it is human, animal, or something from the stars. It is always the same. The man slowly bent down and picked up the last piece of bread. His hand shook as he stretched it forward. The smallest of the alien girls reached out, hesitating. Her fingers were long, delicate, trembling like the flame of a candle. She touched the bread, but instead of snatching it, she looked into his eyes. For a moment, their gaze locked. Gratitude. That was what he saw. Pure, raw gratitude. The girl broke the bread into 3 parts, sharing it with the others. They ate slowly, carefully, as if afraid the meal would vanish. Each bite seemed to fill their bodies with new strength. Their skin glowed a little brighter and their breathing grew steadier. The man stepped back, still unable to believe what he was seeing. His mind screamed with questions. What are they? Where did they come from? Why are they here? But his mouth stayed shut. He was afraid that if he spoke too loudly, they would disappear like smoke in the wind. As the girls finished the bread, one of them lifted her face toward the sky. Her lips moved in strange words he could not understand. The air around them vibrated lightly, like the faint hum of electricity. Then the ground shook. The man staggered, grabbing the bench for balance. The small dog barked nervously. Somewhere, above, the sky split with a low rumble deeper than thunder. The streetlight above them flickered wildly, then burst with a sharp pop, throwing sparks across the ground. The girls looked at each other in panic. The glow around them flickered as if their bodies were connected to the strange disturbance. The man's fear grew heavier. His hands turned cold. What is happening?" he whispered. The tallest of the 3 stepped closer, her weak legs almost giving out. Her voice was urgent, filled with both warning and sorrow. "They come." The man's throat dried. "Who comes?" But she did not answer. Instead, she reached out with trembling hands and grabbed his sleeve. Her skin was cold, almost icy, but her grip was strong. Her large, sorrowful eyes stared into his. "You gave us hope," she said. "Now, we must protect you." Before the man could react, the sky above ripped apart with light. A massive shadow passed overhead, covering the entire street. The wind roared, carrying a smell unlike anything he had ever known: metal, smoke, and something burning. The man looked up. His breath caught. 3 enormous shapes floated above the city, silent and dark, blocking out the stars. They were not planes, not helicopters. Their designs were unnatural, smooth yet sharp, as if built from nightmares. Strange red lights moved along their bodies, scanning the ground below. The alien girls pressed close to the man, their glowing skin trembling with fear. The smallest one whispered, her voice almost breaking, "They are hunters, and they will not stop." The man's knees felt weak. His world, which just moments ago was nothing but loneliness and hunger, had suddenly become something else, something far bigger, far more dangerous. The smallest dog growled, standing bravely in front of him as if it understood the danger. The man almost laughed at the absurdity. A poor stray and a starving human standing against giants from the sky. And yet, the alien girls did not run. Instead, they formed a fragile line between him and the shadows above. Their faint glow grew brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. The man whispered to himself, "What have I gotten into?" The answer came in the form of another deep rumble from above, as the massive ships lowered slowly, casting the entire street into darkness. The night was no longer quiet. It was the beginning of something terrifying and extraordinary. Diwan. Man's chest rose and fell quickly. His breath was heavy. His heart felt like it might tear through his ribs. Above him, the sky was filled with the shadows of massive ships. Their red lights scanned the broken streets, moving like watchful eyes. Every second felt longer, heavier, as if time itself had slowed. The 3 alien girls stood close to him. Their faint glow was stronger now, their eyes sharp, filled with a strange mix of fear and determination. They were weak, yes, but not helpless. There was something inside them, something powerful, that the man could not understand. The smallest, one clutched his arm. Her skin was icy cold, but her grip was strong enough to remind him this was real, not a dream, not his imagination. "Stay quiet," she whispered. Her voice was soft, trembling, but her words carried weight. He nodded slowly, though his body shook. The ships above rumbled again. A beam of red light swept across the street, moving closer. The man's instinct screamed at him to run, to hide, to escape. But the girls did not move. They held their ground, watching the sky like prey waiting for the predator's strike. Then it happened. One of the ships released a smaller craft, a dark shape with wings like blades. It descended quickly, landing at the far end of the street, with a heavy crash. Dust and smoke filled the air. The ground trembled under the impact. Through the smoke, tall figures emerged. They were not human. Their armor was black, their faces hidden behind masks with glowing red eyes. Each carried weapons that hissed and sparked with strange energy. They moved with purpose, hunters searching for prey. The man's throat tightened. His body screamed to run, but his legs were heavy. He whispered almost to himself, "Why? Why me? I'm nothing. I have nothing." The middle alien girl turned her head slightly. Her voice was low but steady. "Because you gave when you had nothing. That is not nothing, that is everything." The word struck him like a hidden truth, but he had no time to answer. The hunters raised their weapons. The red eyes glowed brighter, scanning the street. The girls stepped forward. Their fragile bodies shook, but their glow pulsed brighter, as if they were drawing strength from each other. The tallest one raised her hand. A faint wave of blue light spread from her palm, wrapping around the man like a shield. It was weak, flickering, but he felt it, like standing inside a bubble of safety. The hunters stopped, their heads tilted, sensing something. They growled in a language the man could not understand. The sound was harsh, mechanical, filled with rage. Then one of them shouted, pointing directly at the girls. The man's stomach dropped. They had been found. The hunters charged. Their boots hit the ground like thunder. The red glow of their weapons lit the street, ready to strike. The man stumbled back, his voice breaking. "No! Stop! They're just—" Before he could finish, the smallest girl raised her hand. A sharp flash of blue light burst from her palm, striking the ground between them and the hunters. The impact shook the street, throwing sparks and dust into the air. The hunters paused, surprised. The girl fell to her knees, weak from the effort. Her sisters rushed to her side, helping her stand, but the hunters were already recovering. They spread out, circling, their weapons humming with deadly energy. The man felt useless, helpless. What could he do? He had no weapon, no power, nothing but the will to survive. Yet as he looked at the three alien girls, weak, starving, and still, standing between him and danger, something inside him stirred. He clenched his fists. If they could fight, so could he. But before he could act, the tallest girl spoke again, her voice cutting through the noise. "You must not fight. Not yet." She looked at him, her eyes deep and ancient, though her face was young. "Your choice brought us here. Your kindness bound us. We will stand for you now." Her words confused him, but there was no time to ask. The hunters charged again, their weapons raised. This time, all three girls lifted their hands. Their glow burst brighter, forming a wall of light that spread across the street. The energy crackled, fighting against the hunters' weapons. Sparks filled the night as the two forces clashed, red against blue, darkness against light. The man shielded his eyes, his body shaking under the raw power around him. The small dog barked furiously, standing by his side as if refusing to abandon him. For a moment, it seemed the girls would fall, their bodies bent, their glow dimmed. But then, the man did something he did not understand. He stepped forward, placing his hand on the shoulder of the smallest girl. The glow surged, her eyes widened in shock, then steadied with new strength. The wall of light grew stronger, pushing the hunters back. The man felt his energy drain, as if part of him was flowing into her, but he did not let go. The hunters stumbled, their weapons faltered. The red glow dimmed. Finally, with a roar of blue light, the wall exploded outward, throwing the hunters back into the smoke. Silence followed. The man collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. The girls, too, were weak, their glow flickering faintly. But they were alive. The smallest girl looked at him, her voice soft but filled with awe. "You are not like the others." The man shook his head, exhausted. "I'm just a man." But deep inside, he felt the truth. Something had begun tonight, something far bigger than him, and the hunters would return. The street was silent again, but it was not the same silence as before. Dust floated in the air. Broken pieces of stone and glass covered the ground. The smell of burnt metal clung to the night. The hunters were gone for now, scattered by the blast of blue light. But the man knew they had not been defeated. They would return. He dropped onto the bench, his chest rising and falling heavily. Sweat covered his face even though the night was cold. His legs shook, his hands trembled. He had never felt such power, such danger, and such fear in his life. The three alien girls stood before him. Their faint glow flickered like fading candles. They were weak again, drained by the fight. Yet their eyes remained fixed on him. There was something in their gaze, something heavy, as if they were waiting for him to say or do something. The man finally spoke. His voice cracked. "What do you want from me?" The tallest girl stepped forward, her thin frame bent under exhaustion, but her voice was calm. "You gave us food. You gave us kindness when you had none to spare. That was your choice. And because of that choice, we live." He shook his head quickly. "I didn't ask for this. I'm not a fighter. I'm not a hero. I can't do this." The smallest girl, the one who had begged for food first, walked closer. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly with blue light. "You think kindness is small?" she whispered. "But kindness can change worlds." The words cut into him. He wanted to deny them, but deep inside he remembered the stray dogs and cats. He remembered their hunger. He remembered how his stomach hurt as he gave away his food, yet how his heart had felt lighter afterward. And now, 3 starving beings from the stars had looked at him the same way. The middle sister lowered her head, her voice filled with sorrow. "If you walk away now, they will find you. They will destroy you, they will destroy us, and they will not stop with this street, or this city. They hunt everything." The man swallowed hard. His throat felt dry. He wanted to believe this was still a dream. But the broken streetlight above him, the dust in his lungs, the glow of the girl's skin, all of it told him this was real. He leaned forward, covering his face with his hands. "I just wanted to eat in peace. That's all. I didn't want any of this." The smallest girl touched his arm gently. "Neither did we. We were lost. We were hunted. We were dying. And then, you shared." He looked at her, his eyes red. "I didn't share because I'm brave. I shared because I know hunger." The girl nodded softly. "And that is why you must choose." The man felt a storm inside him. Every part of him wanted to run, to hide, to forget. But when he looked at them, thin, broken, but still standing, something inside him changed. They had power, yes, but they had trusted him with something greater. Their hope. The sound of engines rumbled in the distance. The hunters were returning. The air vibrated with their approach. Red light flickered faintly at the far end of the street. Time was running out. The tallest girl raised her hand weakly. A small spark of blue energy appeared, flickering like a dying flame. "We can fight again, but we will fall without you. Your choice matters." The man's heart raced. He was no soldier. He had never fought in wars. He had no weapon, no armor. Just a tired body, a hungry stomach, and a will that was stronger than he realized. He stood slowly, his legs unsteady. The small stray dog barked beside him as if encouraging him to rise. He looked at the girls and then at the shadows drawing closer. He whispered to himself, "If I run, they die. If I stay, maybe I die. But if I stay, maybe they live." Dido. Hunter's red glow grew brighter, closer, more menacing. The man clenched his fists. He took a deep breath and looked at the alien girls. "Then I choose to stay." The smallest girl's eyes filled with tears of light. "Then we are not alone." The glow around the 3 of them pulsed brighter, stronger, as if his choice had unlocked something hidden. The blue light wrapped around him again, but this time it was steady, solid. The hunters roared in the distance, but for the first time the man did not feel powerless. He felt ready. The night had forced a choice upon him, and he had made it. He would not run. He would stand, even if it meant facing the shadows of the sky. The man stood tall, though his legs still trembled from exhaustion. The faint glow of the 3 alien girls surrounded him like a fragile shield. The smallest dog barked at the shadows, its body tiny but its spirit fierce. Above, the red lights of the hunters cut through the dark, scanning the ruined street. The girls had warned him. The hunters would return. And now they were here. At first, only the low hum of engines filled the night. Then, the heavy sound of boots echoed. Black armored figures stepped out of the smoke again, their red eyes glowing brighter than before. This time, there were more of them. Twice as many. Maybe more, hidden in the dark. The man's throat tightened, but he did not step back. His choice was made. He had chosen to stay. The tallest alien girl raised her hand, her glow flickering weakly. "They will not stop," she whispered. "They will keep coming until we are gone." The man clenched his fists. "Then we don't let them win." The hunters marched closer, weapons humming with deadly energy. Their steps were heavy, crushing broken glass underfoot. Their voices hissed in a harsh alien language. It sounded like metal grinding against metal, sharp and cold. The man felt fear claw at his chest, but he forced it down. He had lived with hunger. He had lived with loneliness. He had survived nights colder and darker than this one, and now, for the first time, he was not alone. The middle girl's voice trembled. "We are weak. We cannot fight them alone." The man glanced at the broken bench where his meal had been, a simple dinner shared with strays. That tiny act had led to this moment, and now, somehow, it felt like the most important choice of his life. He nodded. "Then we fight together." The girls exchanged a quick look, their eyes filled with something new, hope. Their glow pulsed stronger, brighter, as if his words had sparked a hidden fire within them. The hunters roared and charged. Blue light burst from the girls' hands, forming a shield that blocked the first wave of red energy blasts. Sparks lit up the street like fireworks. The man staggered under the force, but he did not fall. He stood inside their shield, feeling its strange warmth, as if their energy flowed through him and back into them. But the hunters were relentless. They spread out, surrounding them, firing from all sides. The shield trembled. Cracks of red light cut through the blue glow. The girls screamed with effort, their thin bodies shaking as they tried to hold the barrier. The man saw their faces, twist with pain. He saw how weak they truly were, how close they were to breaking. He knew if the shield fell, they would all die. Something inside him snapped. He stepped forward, pressing his hands against the barrier. His palms burned, his skin tingled, but he pushed harder. "Hold on," he shouted. "You're not alone." Not anymore. The blue glow surged, brighter and stronger. The cracks sealed. The hunters stumbled back, blinded by the sudden burst of light. The girls gasped in shock, looking at him as if they had never seen such a thing. The smallest one whispered, "You are connected to us." He shook his head, sweat dripping down his face. "I don't know what I am. I just know I won't let them hurt you." The hunters regrouped, snarling in their mechanical voices. They raised their weapons again, but this time, something else happened. The ground shook violently, the air filled with a deep rumble. The man looked up and froze. From above, one of the massive ships began to descend. It was enormous, bigger than any building he had ever seen. Its shadow swallowed the entire street. The red lights along its body glowed brighter, circling like eyes of a predator. The girls screamed in terror. "It is the mothership," the tallest one cried. The man's chest tightened. If the hunters were dangerous, then this was something far worse. The ship lowered, slowly, its engines roaring like thunder. A giant opening appeared at its bottom, glowing with red light. Inside, shadows moved. More hunters, hundreds of them. The girls grabbed the man's arms, their voices trembling with fear. "We cannot win against this. Not now. Not without." They stopped, looking at each other with wide eyes, as if sharing a silent thought. Then the smallest girl spoke, her voice breaking. "Not without him." The man stared at her, confused. "Me? I'm just a man." The middle sister shook her head. "No, you are more. When you touched us, you gave us strength. You are the link. You are the reason we survived." He stepped back, shaking his head in disbelief. "No, I can't. I'm nobody. I don't even have enough food for myself." The tallest girl's eyes glowed with intensity. "And yet you shared. That is power the hunters will never understand. That is why they fear us. That is why they will fear you." The ship above rumbled louder, the red light spilling over the broken street like blood. The hunters below raised their weapons once more, preparing to finish what they had started. The man looked at the three alien girls, weak but unbroken. He looked at the stray dog beside him, growling bravely against giants. He looked at the darkness of the ship above. And then, for the first time in his life, he did not feel small. The choice he had made earlier was no longer just about staying. It was about standing, not only for himself, not only for the girls, but for something bigger, something that had just begun. The man raised his head, his voice steady, his body trembling but unafraid. "Then let them come," The girl's glow flared like fire, wrapping around him in a storm of blue light. Together they faced the descending ship, as the hunters closed in and the night prepared to explode with war. The night burned with light and sound. Above, the mothership lowered slowly, its engines shaking the ground. Red beams crawled across the ruined street like searching eyes. Below, the hunters closed in, their weapons glowing with death. The man stood between them and the three alien girls. His body shook, his stomach ached with hunger, but his eyes were steady. He had already chosen. He would not run. The smallest dog barked furiously at the hunters, its tiny voice lost in the roar of machines. Still, it refused to leave. The man glanced at the little creature and almost smiled. "We stand together." "Huh?" he whispered. The alien girls stepped closer, their faint glow wrapping around him like a second skin. Their voices trembled, but their words were firm. "You gave us life. You gave us hope. Now, we give you power." The man's chest tightened. "Power? I don't even understand what's happening." The tallest girl raised her hand, placing it on his chest. A surge of warmth rushed through him. His breath caught as blue light spread from her palm, flowing into his body. His veins burned, his vision blurred. He staggered, almost falling, but the girls held him upright. "Do not fear," the middle sister whispered. "We are not giving. We are sharing, just as you shared with us." The man gasped as the light grew brighter, merging his strength with theirs. His fear melted, replaced by something else, clarity. He could feel their pain, their hunger, their fear. But he could also feel their courage, their hope, their will to live. The hunters roared and charged. The man lifted his hands without thinking. Blue light burst outward, forming a wave that smashed into the first line of hunters. They flew back, crashing into the street. Sparks and smoke filled the air. He stared at his glowing hands in shock. What is this?" The smallest girl smiled weakly. "It is us. And it is you. Together." The hunters regrouped quickly, snarling in, their metallic voices. More poured out from the ship above, dark shapes sliding down ropes of red light. There were too many. Hundreds. The man's knees shook. He could not fight them all. Even with this strange power, he was only one man. But then he remembered the strays, the dogs, the cats. They had trusted him with their hunger, and the girls, 3, lost beings from another world, had trusted him with their lives. He clenched his fists. Maybe he could not win, but he could stand. The hunters fired. Red beams filled the air. The man spread his arms wide and a wall of blue light erupted, shielding them. The energy hummed like thunder, shaking the ground. The beams hit the shield, but none broke through. The girls cried out, their bodies trembling as they poured everything they had into him. He felt their weakness, their struggle, but he also felt their faith in him. The man shouted, his voice echoing through the street. "You want to hunt? Then hunt me." The hunters paused for a moment, surprised by the defiance in his voice. The mothership above hummed louder, its red lights focusing on him like the eye of a giant beast. The girls tightened their grip on him. The tallest whispered, "They do not understand. They will never understand." "What?" he asked, straining, against the energy flowing through him. "Why you fight?" she said softly. "You are weak, hungry, alone. Yet you still give. That is what they fear." The words burned into him like fire. He was no soldier, no king, no chosen one. He was just a man who had shared his meal. But maybe that was enough. The mothership fired. A massive beam of red light shot down, tearing through the air. The ground shook, buildings crumbled, the sky screamed. The man roared and pushed forward with everything he had. The girls screamed with him, their voices joining his. The blue light surged, meeting the red beam head-on. The clash was blinding, shaking the earth, splitting the night in two. For a moment it seemed the red would win. The blue shield cracked, splintering under the force. The girls cried out in pain, collapsing to their knees. The man felt his body breaking, his energy draining. But then he remembered the smallest act, the piece of bread given to a hungry dog, the soft eyes of a stray cat licking crumbs, the trembling hands of alien girls breaking bread together. Kindness. That was his strength. With a final roar, he poured everything, his pain, his hunger, his fear, and his hope, into the light. The shield exploded outward, not just blue but golden, filled with something purer than energy. The red beam shattered. The mothership trembled, its engines screaming as cracks of blue-gold light spread across its body. The hunters below froze, their weapons falling silent. Then, with a sound like thunder, the ship broke apart. Fire and smoke filled the sky as the massive shadow collapsed into itself, vanishing into nothing. Silence followed. The man collapsed to the ground, his chest heaving. The glow around him faded, leaving only the faint shimmer of the girl's light. They knelt beside him, their eyes filled with awe. "You saved us," the smallest one whispered. He shook his head weakly. "No. We saved each other." The stray dog barked once, wagging its tail as if in agreement. The girls helped him to his feet. Together they stood in the ruins of the street. Above them the stars shone brighter now, free of the red shadow. The tallest girl looked at him, with a strange smile. They will return one day, but now they know. Humans are not prey. The man smiled faintly. His body was weak, but his heart was stronger than ever. He looked up at the sky and whispered, "Let them come." For the first time he believed it. The night was over, but the silence that followed felt heavier than the battle itself. The broken street lay scattered with dust, shattered glass, and black marks where fire had burned. The mothership was gone, destroyed by the blast of light that had shaken the sky. The hunters had vanished with it, leaving nothing but faint trails of smoke in the air. The man sat on the cracked bench, his body weak, his chest rising and falling like he had just run through a storm. His clothes were torn, his hands still, burned from the strange power that had passed through them. He felt empty, drained, yet alive. Beside him, the three alien girls knelt on the ground, their faint glow dim but steady. They too looked weak, their breaths uneven, their bodies trembling. Yet there was something different in their eyes now. Not only hunger, not only fear, there was hope. The smallest dog climbed onto the man's lap, curling against him for warmth. He let out a tired laugh, rubbing the tiny creature's head. "You didn't run, did you? Brave little thing." The girls watched him in silence. Then the tallest spoke, her voice soft and slow. "You are changed." The man frowned, looking at his hands. They were ordinary again, just rough and human, scarred from years of hard life. "I don't feel changed," he muttered. "I just feel tired." The middle sister shook her head. "Not your body, your spirit. It touched ours, it grew. That is why you could fight the hunters." The man leaned back against the bench, staring at the broken sky where the mothership had been. "I didn't fight because I was strong. I fought because I had no choice." The smallest girl tilted her head, her blue eyes shining faintly. "That is strength." Her words hung in the air. The man did not answer. He thought of his small life before this night. A poor man with barely enough food, sitting alone in the dark with nothing but strays for company. He had been invisible to the world, forgotten, unimportant. But tonight he had faced something greater than the world, and he had not run. The girls stood slowly, unsteady on their feet. They looked at each other, their silent communication passing between them. Then the tallest turned back to him. "We cannot stay," she said. The man sat up straight. "What do you mean?" "The hunters are gone, but only for now. Others will follow. They always follow. If we remain, they will come back. Here, they will burn this place." He looked around at the ruined street, the cracked walls, the shattered lamps, the broken road. "This place is already broken." "Broken," the tallest agreed. "But not destroyed. You are here. The strays are here. The people who walk. These streets tomorrow, they are still alive. If we stay, they will not be." The man's stomach sank. For the first time in years, he had not felt alone. Now they were leaving. He lowered his head. So this is it? You came? I gave you bread. We fought together. And now you go? The smallest girl stepped forward, her eyes filled with sadness. We do not wish to leave you. But if we stay, we curse you. He felt her cold hand touch his. He squeezed it gently, his throat tight. And if you leave, what happens to you? The middle sister answered. We will search for others. There are survivors of our kind scattered across the stars. We must find them. We must rebuild. The man nodded slowly. He understood. But understanding did not make it easier. The smallest dog barked softly, as if sensing his sorrow. The girl smiled faintly at the sound. The tallest girl reached into the torn cloth she wore and pulled out a small crystal, glowing faintly with blue light. She placed it in his hands. This is a shard of our world, she said. It will remind you that you are not alone, and if the hunters return, it will call to us. We will come. The man stared at the crystal, its glow soft but warm. It felt alive in his palm. He swallowed hard. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Be what you already are, the smallest girl whispered. Human. For the first time, he felt the weight of the word. The girls stepped back. Their glow grew brighter, wrapping around their thin bodies like wings of light. The man rose to his feet, clutching the crystal tightly. Will I ever see you again? He asked. The middle sister gave a small, sad smile. You will, when the stars need you. The light around them grew blinding. The man raised his hand to shield his eyes. When he lowered it again, the girls were gone. The street was empty. Only the stray dog remained, wagging its tail, looking up at him as if asking, What now? The man sat back down on the bench, staring at the crystal in his hand. The night was quiet again, but it was no longer the same silence. Something had changed. He looked up at the sky, whispering to himself, Let them come. And for the first time, he felt ready for whatever came next.